This week some wires get crossed, but maybe in a good way. But first, the end of an era. This is a week where you'll pivot or course correct or whatever term you like. And that might have been a long time coming, just like over the past few weeks. And then also a long time coming is the beginning of the end of the world beginning of the very, very end of the world. So the beginning of the end of the world was like summer 2019 into spring 2020. No, the beginning of the end of the world was the housing crisis in 2008, the Bitcoin white paper, and the dawn of social impact investing. All in 2008. This week, in one way, you'll finally be able to move forward. And in another way, you're going to start to go back into the past. You'll make some final connections with the future before you go back to deal with the distant past. This was on my list of stories to talk about last week, but I changed the order and then I didn't talk about it. So your identity is a wallet. You're just going to be, everyone's going to be reduced to a wallet, or at least like that's what is trying to happen. And it might not happen all the way. Probably won't work ultimately, but there'll be a lot of hilarity that ensues on the way. And I'll also note that one hallmark of totalitarianism is to do things, push them really extremely into like a crazy iron-fisted place. And then when everybody protests, roll it back to something that everybody can deal with or likes, or something that people won't really raise an eyebrow about because the thing that they denied was so terrible. So anything else is better. And there was a lot of like staunch authoritarianism happening in 2020 and 2021, and now that stuff is getting hidden. Watch my managed wellness video, which is coming out. I was going to put it out last week, but I didn't, so I'm putting it out this week. But it's about the things that maybe you loved and thought should have been imposed on people in 2020 and 2021, or those same things, maybe there are things that you didn't love. All of that stuff is still coming down the pipeline, just in a different way. And cryptocurrency is a part of that. It's really like same shit, different day in terms of like late stage capitalism. It kind of like moves people around the game board, but it doesn't really change the game board fundamentally. So this, I'm sure you've read the headline, a Dubai court recognizes crypto as valid salary payment. And I didn't really read this article and go into the details because I don't care. I mean, I have the luxury of not caring. Some of these headlines are just like guideposts to show us where we're going. But I didn't read this article in depth, but I did read, and I hope that I hope people in United Arab Emirates considering using crypto as compensation read this guide. Oh my god. Sorry, I don't think you could see I got like a dialogue because something weird happened. This is a very in-depth guide on how to use tokens, and it's actually very helpful to understand that tokens aren't really money and they're not really equity. They're something else. So that makes this really interesting. I think maybe in the beginning of this process, a lot of people might be taken advantage of, thinking that crypto is like tokens are currency, and they are, or that they're equity. So there's something else. So read this. Don't be like me. Read the whole thing. And read this. Very helpful. One thing they say in this, and this is a direct quote, they say about like how tokens are not equity. Some tokens are based on protocols, and this is what they say. Protocols, for example, are autonomous software, not companies. And they're saying that no board or management team, this is still a quote from the article, is dedicated to maximizing the value of a token. So very important as the distinction that a token is not equity. Workers at Google DeepMind are urging the company to drop their military contracts. And I put this in, initially all I was going to say is like, the world doesn't work this way. You don't have that much pull. Google employees, you'll be replaced by AI. But it is interesting that I guess Google did pledge to like never do lethal autonomous weapons. In the summary of the article I read, it said that it linked to this, and it said that Google pledged to never work on military technology, but I get the sense from this that maybe that's not exactly true. But who knows, maybe you'll read all the things and you can report back. But again, cynical comment is like, Google employees, do you think it's like 2011 or something? Like the company actually cares if a segment of their employees don't like something? I don't think that matters anymore. That time is not now. So it's millennials. They're all millennials. So Wyoming has released a stablecoin. They plan to issue it to an exchange so that the exchange can issue it to a retail user. The retail user. They want it to just be an everyday payment method for everyday things. So we might see Wyoming being the first like community-based currency or UBI, like official UBI program coming down the pipeline. That's a prediction, because I really don't think that official UBIs or community currencies are going to be done with the currency we currently use. I don't think that's going to be a thing. I think all upcoming UBIs are probably going to be digital currencies. So they're experimenting with fighting climate change by bioengineering a better cow. When will we learn that there is a price? I predict, my job is to predict things, I predict we will pay a price for this, for these bioengineered cows, just like we paid a price for GMOs, and now they're called, by the way, GMOs are called NBTs, new breeding techniques. So when you are in the store and you buy something because it has the little orange butterfly non-GMO thing, that means nothing now, unless it's like made of corn or something. I think there's something like 8 recognized GMOs. So if you're like, they'll put that label on anything, even if it contains crops that have never had that like GMO distinction, just because consumers care about it. But so it means nothing now. And the way it means nothing is like, yes, if you buy corn tortillas and it says non-GMO, that's probably good. Then you're probably not getting like, or like maybe like frozen tater tots and it says non-GMO. Maybe you're not getting like the potatoes mixed with a fish gene or whatever. But it means nothing, because you could have a thing that says non-GMO and it could still have genetically modified like products in it, like produce or whatever. But those are NBTs. So they're engineered by CRISPR. We're not adding genes from fish or whatever. We're just deleting and editing in the same organism using CRISPR. And those are called NBTs. So if you buy something that says non-GMO, you could still have NBTs, I think. I'm pretty sure. I did some very quick and dirty research on this a few days ago. And if it doesn't say non-GMO, it doesn't matter. So basically that's meaningless. Unless, look, I guess I should have come to the table with the list of the GMO organisms. So if you're buying something with that in it, but it's really only 8 things or 15 things or something. Anyway, they're engineering a cow to create less emissions. Also, this is one of the absolute funniest headlines I've ever seen in my entire life. Speaking of which, remember when we started putting fluoride in the water because everybody was malnourished? Did you know that tooth decay is actually a malnutrition problem? It's not really things sitting on the surface of your tooth. So everybody was getting tooth decay during this industrial revolution because these cities were food deserts and nobody was eating anything that was really good for them. Which, did you know that your teeth have... There was a guy who was like raising his eyebrow at the conventional wisdom from the late 50s or late 40s or something, that tooth decay is like stuff on the surface of your tooth. So eating a lot of sugar, not brushing your teeth. He did these studies where he put in like, God bless you, rats, lab rats, okay? Not really into laboratory testing, but God bless these rats so that we can know this. That's truly chilling in a whole other video. But he put fluorescent dye, fed them something with fluorescent dye. So it was in their stomachs, and then 6 minutes later, it was inside the pulp, the center of their teeth. And then it eventually made their way out to cover the surface of the teeth. So your teeth have a fountain of fluid, and it can be regarded as an invisible toothbrush. And as long as that is going properly, tooth decay is not really going to be too much of a thing. When you start to really get tooth decay, it's because that process of this like dentine fluid starts to reverse, and it starts to like suck in fluid, and everything gets messed up because the flow's not supposed to go that way. So your teeth are really magical. They're not just like dead organisms anyway, but we didn't know that, so we put fluoride in the drinking water, being like, it's from normal wear and tear, which is actually what they say in this article. It's the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that fluoride strengthens teeth and reduces cavities by replacing minerals lost during normal wear and tear. I know that this is supposed to be tech news and this is like health news, but this is also tech news. It's the same as bioengineering cows. It is a technology, deciding to put fluoride in the drinking water. And very Pluto and Aquarius, this technology thing we put it in the critical infrastructure. Now we're finding out it lowers IQ in children. So I'm sure this is going to go great and save the planet. Nature is the most perfect system. Nature is the only system that creates no waste. The more we tamper with nature, the more we're going to pay a price later. But that goes back to, I found a headline, I don't have the screenshot for it, but that humans are going to overtake a very large portion of the wilderness by 2070, which is setting up a system of moving everybody into smart cities, which are the new reservations, and not allowing people to go into wilderness. And I think there will be a hidden price for that, because there's no baseline promotion culturally of conservation through use or actual interaction with nature. It's keeping us away from it. I'm just going to stop talking about that. I think you understand what I'm saying. Monday is the beginning of the end. Sunday is also the beginning of the end, but in a larger, different way. Monday is also the beginning of the end so that we can begin in a minute. Astrology is a way to describe overlapping cycles of time. So on Monday, the moon enters the second quarter. So we had the full moon last week, and now you'll have the half moon on Monday. Wrap it up. And preferably, if you have things that you need to finish, loose ends you need to tie, do it before Wednesday or by Wednesday. Because Wednesday, things are going to pivot and you're going to be able to feel like you can move forward. But if you can get as much done as possible, and please do double check your work. This is a time of your assumptions, Mercury retrograde, and especially Mercury stationing, especially if you're a Mercury ruled native or in a Mercury ruled year. This is a time when your assumptions are not, you're going to miss something if you're going all on the assumptions. And if you are, it's like you're like, oh, I don't need to read I haven't done this thing in a while, but I should probably review the instructions. But instead, I'm just going to wing it. You'll get something wrong the first part of it. So whatever easy things you can like check and double check and do slowly and deliberately, try to do it before Wednesday so you can be ahead of the game. And then after Wednesday, you could wrap it up even more or discover things that you couldn't possibly have seen before Wednesday. And if you have the opportunity to do things a little bit differently on Monday, do that. It could be pleasurable. It's Venus connecting with Uranus. It's a trine, so more likely to be like constructive or pleasurable, but something surprising. It could be something surprising with a relationship. And this week is a big week for Venus and a big week for Uranus. Venus trines Uranus on Tuesday, but I'm putting it on Monday because the Monday story will be more about that, I think, than the Tuesday story. Tuesday will be like dealing with whatever that was. Anyway, Uranus is stationing at the end of this week, and planetary stations emphasize that planet's significations in that period of time. So Uranus is really loud this week, and Venus is talking to everyone this week, connecting with a lot of outer planets. Venus is shifting from Virgo to Libra. Libra is a much more constructive place for the archetype of Venus, and on the way, she's checking in with the big outer planets. So if you have a lot of Venus going on, if you're a Venus-ruled person or in a Venus-ruled year, this might be a significant week for big structural overarching things. Again, Monday, Tuesday is like a zap of Venus-Uranus. And it might feel a little bit grating because the moon's also squaring Saturn early Tuesday. So it might be like something biological interferes with something pleasurable or spiritual, but I really connect spirituality with biology at this point. Tuesday starts off positive. Just make sure you have something to go ham on Tuesday, so you can use the moon conjoining Mars and Gemini energy constructively. And the easiest thing is it like takes the form of a lively, productive conversation that's like slightly argumentative, but maybe not quite. Don't let it go there. Let it be vigorous, but don't get into an argument. Or if you do, maybe that will be helpful. Moon conjoining Mars is always like the angry signature. So that's why I'm saying make sure you have something productive to focus your rage on. If you're a woman, you have 4 basic phases of your body every month. And this would be like the follicular phase, which has been named by 1950s Madison Avenue guys as premenstrual syndrome, which is not a syndrome. It's a natural time in your body. It's not something to be fixed, but you're hyper-focused on things, so it's a really good time to get things done. And if you don't have that, then you lose your shit, and you're angry at everybody, and you're a nightmare to be around. And that's how it gets named a syndrome by people who don't understand what's happening. But that's like the moon conjoining Mars. And the moon in Gemini also taps Mercury in Leo, which is currently ruling Mars transit of Gemini, and Mercury is stationing. So your work on Tuesday, the thing you have to go ham on, is been up in the air for the past couple weeks. And it's a part of that, what I said at the beginning of the forecast about finishing things up. Let's wrap it up. Let's get it done. Because when Mercury stations, there might be like different things you need to do, or you might find out you have to pivot to somewhere else entirely. I don't know, you might find out that some of that work that you did on Tuesday is useless, or you have to do it over again, or whatever, or you might be doing work over again that you tried to do a couple weeks ago. No matter what, you're supposed to do it. Even if you wrap things up on Tuesday and then you find out that this project is getting shelved, it might come back like in 4 years or something. Have no regrets. The situation is already changing. And then Tuesday evening can go from vigorous to pretty chill. And watch out for perfectionism and the potential bad time that could create. You could have an enjoyable evening if you're okay with it not being what you expected, or you can see the hidden value in something that is conventionally maybe not that enjoyable. So if you're like not at the location you want to be, or even with a person you want to be with, or you're not wearing the outfit you want to wear, or you're having a bad hair day, try to find the hidden value in what's unbeautiful, or the hidden value in something that's not conventionally considered pleasurable or fun or your taste. If you can do that, you get to have a good time. No matter what, you'll probably get to relax even if you're not enjoying yourself. On Wednesday, and that kind of leads us into Wednesday when the moon moves into Cancer, so there's a big change in tone. The moon in Gemini has been very busy, ruled by Mercury stationing, and now the moon's in Cancer, where you can deal with your needs, your emotional needs, your physical needs. Those things are correlated. Venus is opposing Neptune, so this is Venus in Virgo in fall, so it's like perfectionism Venus. Very critical eye Venus. That's good for some things. You need to perform integrated pest management in the real way, not Bayer way. Watch my managed wellness video coming this week. But it's Venus connecting with Neptune in Pisces. Stick up her ass Venus, which I don't mean that in a mean way. Venus in Virgo has an eye for detail. I saw a tweet. I was served a tweet. I didn't find it myself. This tweet is Venus in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. At least Venus does get like a little, Venus is making contact with the sign of her exaltation in a big way. I feel like there's something really balanced. Normally in opposition with Neptune, I wouldn't love, but there's something that feels really balanced about this. But it could also be confusing. Mercury is stationing. Wednesday is very Mercury heavy in a Virgo way. It's more material, physical, practical matter, and being able to move forward on things that have been stuck. And Mercury is stationing in Leo, so everything I've been talking about Tuesday and Wednesday might end up being all tied to some instance of you or someone in your life having the courage to speak their mind, to defend something. And that'll connect back to events around August 4th and late July, if anything important happened in late July. Whereas Wednesday was chill and is in contrast with Monday and Tuesday, which were very chatty. On Thursday, chatty is back in the chat. It's like the equivalent of getting invited to Peter Thiel's garden party. Venus enters Libra, where she is dignified, so Venus stuff starts to work better. But it is Venus with a soft note, so just don't care about it that much. Things are going to work out fine, but you can't be tied to any sort of outcome. And things might work better in an elegant, sophisticated, social version of letting go. And right when Venus enters Libra, Venus trines Pluto. So that's like connecting with great power. The kind that is probably a little bit corrupt, as is all great power must be. Still might be like that element of surprise, because what happens to the planets has something to do with planets in the sign that planet rules. So Uranus stationing, which Venus just connected to, is ruled by Venus right now. All the Venus connections this week, I feel like there's a zap of something unexpected. So again, Thursday is like elegant, sophisticated, structural, slightly corrupt. It's Venus moving into Libra, Venus trining Pluto, the moon trining Saturn, ruler of Aquarius, where Pluto is. And then the moon sextiling Uranus, ruled by Venus, trine Pluto. And again, this is what I said in the beginning of the video. Venus connecting with Pluto, the moon's going to connect with Pluto. It's a part of a final connection with the future before we move forward back into the past to wrap things up. Friday, you might sleep in, and that might be good, because then the moon moves into Leo, and all eyes are on you, except maybe you'll have stage fright, or maybe there's like a creepy sense that you're being watched. When the moon is in Leo, being opposed by Pluto, and we just completed all of the Sun in Leo season, luminaries in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius, which happens on Friday. The moon opposes Pluto just after 10 Pacific time. I think of like a fear of being seen. And this isn't my idea. If you're afraid of being judged, which I absolutely am all the time, the thing you're afraid of being judged for is what you judge other people for. So that's the moon opposing Pluto, the moon in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is fresh off a trine with Venus, so it's still that like social, something about visibility of social connections into power maybe, and maybe something about critical infrastructure, or how social connections fit into the context of large groups. So the second half of Friday and the beginning of Saturday are uncomplicated and probably in a good way, with just the moon sextiling Jupiter, which is more social. Saturday is more social than Wednesday. Saturday turns up the volume on the social component, but there's not much else happening other than Friday, the reverberations of Friday, and then what's coming. There are some changes coming, so just actually apply everything I say about Sunday to Saturday. Because early in the morning on Sunday, something interesting happens that's like a mini version of this. If you want to be updated on everything that's been going on with the Mercury retrograde, then watch my Mercury retrograde video, which is a few downloads previous. It will say Mercury retrograde on the thumbnail. A big signature of that Mercury retrograde that we're still in right now, we're just wrapping up, is Mercury squaring Uranus 3 times. And for the dates of those, watch my video, but we had over a week ago, like almost 2 weeks ago, we had the second Mercury-Uranus square. And this is, on Sunday we have the moon conjoins Mercury, so the moon is the activator of the zodiac, so that's activating whatever it connects with. So the moon conjoins Mercury, then Uranus stations retrograde, and a planetary station makes a planet louder. Outer planet retrogrades are not quite the same as the inner planet retrogrades or Mars. It doesn't really mean Uranus is being rebellious. Uranus is always rebellious. It's more just the tide coming in and out. That moment where we're going from going one way to going the other way. It's stationary. That's an illusion, by the way. But the point of astrology is our point of view from Earth, which is why natal astrology is your point of view from the time and location you stepped onto this timeline. So we have the moon conjoining Mercury, Uranus stationing retrograde. So that's Uranus being loud with an exclamation point above it. And then the moon squares Uranus. So all of this happens the first part of Sunday. So Sunday is just another loud emphasis of Mercury stationing and all the things this Mercury retrograde has been about, which watch my video to find out what that was about. Sunday evening, the end of Sunday, we begin the end of an era. Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn in 2008. And because of planetary retrogrades, Pluto moves in and out of the tropical zodiac sign it's transiting when it's near the end, sometimes a few times. So in January, Pluto entered Aquarius for a second time, which means the backwards timeline of January 2024 through sometime in the summer 2023. Pluto was in Capricorn temporarily. Summer 2023 through sometime in March 2023, Pluto's first transit of Aquarius in a couple hundred years happened. And before that, Pluto had been transiting Capricorn since 2008. Pluto in Capricorn is the blatant, especially at the end of Capricorn, it becomes this, it's the corruption of established power structures. That's what is happening. If you totally trust all established power structures, you need someone to take your head and turn it to the astrology that's happening and connect that to events in the world. It probably won't help you if you're that person who trusts all established power structures, but this is the last transit. Now, Sunday, September 1st. It's September. I have an August calendar on but it's September now. Sunday is September 1st. It's Pluto moving back into Capricorn one last time. That transit lasts from Sunday, September 1st through November 19th. So just in time for the United States election. And it's the beginning of the very, very end of the beginning of the end of an era. Did I say that right? Probably not. The end of November this coming year, we will truly be moving into the future. This is like tying up loose ends, giving things one more go with finding deep empowerment through trauma in the Capricorn parts of our chart. I'm sure we can all find something. And at the end of the day, the moon moves into Virgo on Sunday night. So Sunday is big, structural, physical, practical, in a way that's different from Wednesday. So back to Pluto in Capricorn and upcoming election season. I was listening to a talk by the guy who wrote the book, The Fourth Turning, and he was talking about the upcoming United States election. And he mentioned something about how, there's nobody, no matter what the outcome of the election is, nobody is going to accept the results. They're all going to be everything's so corrupt and messed up that nobody's going to accept any results, even if by some freak of all of time it somehow is a fair election. It doesn't matter who wins. it's going to be contested, and that's going to end up boiling down to moving us right back to Pluto and Aquarius, where we change the voting system to like a blockchain token-based system. Anyway, this guy who wrote The Fourth Turning mentioned that as a comment about how like not trusting elections, people like eras of people not trusting the results of elections, they are eras where there is a high degree of political segregation. So divide and conquer, everybody is forced to like, I once heard someone say that if you're not all the way left, then you're far right. And that's the mentality of the line in the sand. Watch my first Pluto and Aquarius video. It's about mob rule in a way that's very intense. So now you're only allowed to be friends with people in your political group. You're not allowed to associate. That's what's in the air these days, and that's what we're going to be working through and healing over the next 20 years. So yeah, people not trusting elections has a lot to do with like people not trusting each other and not being willing to exist with each other, holding different political opinions. Because culturally and on social media, we're encouraged to like radicalize ourselves. Next week, to prepare for next week, just like get a little leg up. I know that this week is just starting, but to prepare for next, consider the distinctions between a system, creating a system, building a system for yourself, versus working in harmony with the natural path, working with the natural flow of things. Instead of bioengineering a new cow, how can we work with the way nature wants to go? So next week, systems versus natural path. Watch my managed wellness video. It's not out right now. It'll be out very soon. And remember, your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.